Good morning, everyone. My name is Lindsay Newton. I am the Director of Community Engagement at the Missouri Historical Society. And on behalf of MHS, I would like to welcome you to STL History Live. We are so excited for you to join us virtually. Thank you for being here. I'd like to introduce you to our guest presenters. Kat McCain from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is joining us today, as well as Sarah Pieper of the Missouri Department of Conservation. Sarah and Kat, thank you for being here. I need to quickly mention a few details about how today's program will run. Closed captioning is being provided. To turn it on, you can scroll to the closed caption button along the toolbar. You'll see an arrow there. Turn on the subtitles if you'd like to read those. And this will be a roughly 30-minute presentation followed by 10 to 15 minutes for questions. You can submit questions through the Q&A button on your toolbar. Please know that we will do our best to answer all of your questions, but we may run out of time and not have a chance to answer them all. Today's presentation is being recorded, so if you'd like to view it again or share the presentation with others, we would love for you to do so. It will be posted on our Missouri Historical Society's YouTube channel early next week. Your feedback is always important to us. We would really appreciate if you could answer a few questions for us at the end of the program. A Kobo Toolbox survey will open in another tab on your browser, and that's going to open while we're talking soon. So keep an eye out for that when you leave the session. And I know that some of you watching are Missouri Historical Society members. Thank you. We are always so grateful for your support. And if you're not a member, we would love for you to consider joining today. You can go to our website, mohistory.org, mohistory.org/support. And we also sincerely thank city and county residents for your tax contributions through the Zoo Museum Tax District. So today's presentation is closely related to one of our featured exhibits on display at the Missouri History Museum right now, the Mighty Mississippi. And one of the themes in that exhibit is how sustaining surrounding communities has long depended on wisely caring for the river, environment, and its resources. So I'm very excited to have you all here today to discuss the ways we can support and nurture our river. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Kat McCain to get us started. Enjoy, everyone.
All right, thank you, Lindsay. So my name is Kat McCain with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and I'll be speaking to you today about the nurturing the river through ecosystem restoration and the challenges and opportunities we have here. So go ahead and go to the couple of slides, please, Lindsay. You go to the next one. All right, so what is ecosystem restoration? And what is the role of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers with ecosystem restoration? Ecosystem restoration is the process of assisting the recovery of ecosystems that have been degraded, damaged, or destroyed, and focuses on establishing the ecological processes necessary to make terrestrial and aquatic ecosystems sustainable, resilient, and healthy under current as well as future conditions. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, or the Corps for short, is usually associated with flood risk management, but ecosystem restoration is another main mission area of our organization. The focus of the Corps' ecosystem restoration program is on water-related ecosystem projects, including restoration of wetlands, submerged aquatic vegetation, riparian forest, wet prairie, coastal marshes, and oyster reefs. Although the Corps sometimes does become involved in broader restoration projects, core policy is that there has to be a water nexus. The Corps' work with the large-scale ecosystem restoration projects, such as the Everglades Project, Louisiana Coastal Area Ecosystem Restoration, Chesapeake Bay Oyster Recovery, and what I'll be talking more about today is the Upper Mississippi River Restoration Program. Next. Before discussing what the Upper Mississippi River Restoration Program is, I kind of want to talk about a little bit of context of where we are in the world. The Upper Mississippi River Basin is depicted here in light yellow, and it drains approximately 189,000 square miles, including large parts of the states of Illinois, Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Missouri. And small portions of Indiana, Michigan, and South Dakota are also within the basin. Over 60% of the basin is in cropland or pasture, with the major cash crops being corn and soybeans. More than 30 million people live in the basin. Next. A subset of the Upper Mississippi River Basin is the Upper Mississippi River System. The Upper Mississippi River System is a waterway serving a range of uses from commercial navigation, recreation, and fish and wildlife. The UMRS consists of about 1,200 miles of the Upper Mississippi River from the headwaters in Lake Itasca, Minnesota, to the confluence of the Ohio River at Cairo at the southern tip of Illinois. It also includes the Illinois River and several important tributaries. The Upper Mississippi River System is more than just a river. It is part of our national heritage, a unique resource, and the best example of a multi-purpose river in the nation. In 1986, Congress designated the UMRS as both a nationally significant ecosystem and a nationally significant navigation system. It is the only inland river in the United States with such a designation. The Upper Mississippi River is not only an economic engine, which helps drive the economy locally and globally, it is also a tremendously significant ecosystem supporting commercial and recreational fishing, hunting, boating, and other activities. Tourism and outdoor recreation in the Upper Mississippi River corridor alone translates to $24.6 billion in the region's economy, creating an estimated 421,000 jobs. Humans are not the only ones that need the Mississippi River. The Upper Miss is also a globally significant flyway and is used by more than 326 species of birds, a home for at least 260 species of fish, 37 species of freshwater mussel, 47 species of reptiles and amphibians, and 50 species of mammals, and many of these are rare and endangered species. The UMRS is home to 10 national wildlife refuges, encompassing over 300,000 acres of wooded island, water, and wetlands along the river corridor. Next. Starting in the mid-1800s, alterations to make large-scale commercial navigation possible, as well as construction of levees, resulted in profound changes in the river. For decades, its diverse purposes of the river were at odds, with navigation and nature serving as a source of conflict for many river stakeholders. Based on the report to Congress, the degradation of the Upper Miss River is approximately 1 to 3% annually. What this means is that these rates, the Upper Mississippi River ecosystem is declining faster than it is currently being restored. The highly invasive Asian carp are among the most notorious stressors in this battle, but climate change, loss of floodplain forest, soil erosion and sedimentation, island erosion and loss of side channels, loss of floodplain connectivity, and nutrient runoff are less headline grabbing, but are also silent threats to the river. So what can we do to help the river? Next. The Upper Mississippi River Restoration Program is the first ecosystem restoration and monitoring program undertaken on a large river system in the United States. It has authority to restore portions of the UMRS. For the St. Louis and surrounding areas, the UMRR program includes those river reaches having commercial navigation channels on the Mississippi River main stem north of Cairo, Illinois, the Illinois River and waterways, and the Kaskaskia River in Illinois. This federal-state partnership provides a well-balanced combination of habitat restoration activities along with monitoring and research. The UMRR was authorized by Congress in the 1986 Water Resources Development Act to help address the ecological needs of the river. UMRR is the first program in the nation to combine ecosystem restoration with scientific monitoring and research efforts on a large river system within a partnership context. This program is implemented through a strong partnership which includes state, federal, non-governmental organizations, and the public. The UMRR integrates research and monitoring with constructing and managing habitat restoration projects. The integration allows for us to continually improve our knowledge, restoration, and management of the river, and to achieve the vision of a healthier and more resilient Upper Mississippi River system that sustains the river's multiple users. Next. So part of this program, there's two major focus areas for the UMRR program: habitat restoration as well as science and research. The Habitat Rehabilitation Enhancement Projects, or HREPs, are the element that utilizes a wide range of construction techniques and approaches that mimic natural river processes and provide benefits to the river at the system, reach, pool, and local scales. Each restoration project is multifaceted, enhances many types of habitats, and species and addresses specific ecological goals that are identified through a comprehensive planning process. HREPs use a variety of techniques, including shoreline protection, backwater dredging, island construction, water level management, levee modification, secondary channel modification, and floodplain restoration. Planning teams for restoration projects utilize ecosystem understanding and long-term monitoring data in order to design projects aimed at restoring ecosystem structure and function. The HREP element has fostered interdisciplinary and collaborative planning for habitat restoration, preservation, and enhancement previously non-existent on any other river system in the United States. UMRR has served the nation well since 1986, completing 56 habitat projects benefiting approximately 106,000 acres of aquatic and floodplain habitat restored. And an additional 65,000 acres are expected to be restored by year 2030 if the program continues to receive congressional funding at its current funding levels. Next. The second element of the program is the Upper Mississippi River Restoration Long-Term Research and Monitoring. And this is the nation's first large-scale effort to determine the status and trends of fish, vegetation, water quality, and habitats of large rivers. It is recognized nationally and internationally. LTRM combines environmental monitoring, research, and modeling with data management and providing important information to river managers. The mission of the LTRM is to provide resource managers and decision makers with information necessary to maintain the Upper Mississippi River system as a sustainable multiple-use large river ecosystem. Planning teams for the HREPs utilize the LTRM data to identify problems, understand existing ecosystem conditions, and improve project effectiveness. There are 6 cooperative state-owned and operated field stations have been established in the LTRM for the field data collection, analysis, quality assurance, and applied research. The field stations are located in Pool 4 near Lake City, Minnesota, Pool 8 near La Crosse, Wisconsin, Pool 13 near Bellevue, Iowa, Pool 26 near Alton, Illinois, right in our backyard, the LaGrange Pool on the Illinois near Havana, and the Open River Reach near Cape Girardeau, Missouri. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers provides an overall program leadership, responsibility, and funding for the LTRM, and then the LTRM research direction is led by the U.S. Geological Survey Upper Midwest Environmental Science Center out of La Crosse, in cooperation with the 5 states and the Corps of Engineers. Next. So now on to some of the challenges and opportunities the program is facing. Invasive species are a major threat to the river. Invasive species enter the river from the Great Lakes as well as the lower Mississippi River. Understanding how these species alter ecosystem structure and function, including how they impact native species, is needed in order to improve our restoration efforts. Within the UMRR, the LTRM element provides a unique opportunity to utilize over 30 years of data to perform collaborative research system-wide on invasive species. Not only can LTRM data be used to detect these species, targeted LTRM research activities also seek to increase our understanding of how these species alter the ecosystem processes, which can directly relate to our success of our restoration projects, and ultimately in restoring the Mississippi River. Next. Sedimentation is also another threat to the river. It continues to be a challenge in restoring the river because the pools created by the lock and dam system, which slowed river flows, also increase sediment deposition. Additionally, excessive sedimentation from upland and stream bank erosion in the watershed is also a contributing factor. The focus of many HREPs seek to address the impacts of sedimentation in backwater, side channels, and wetland habitats. Opportunities exist to partner with our upland resource agencies to reduce sedimentation from the watershed. Upland work is not within the authority of the UMRR. However, working with other agencies whose mission is to reduce watershed inputs are a great opportunity for the partnership to continue to pursue. Additionally, several lessons learned in HREP design are shared and implemented to address sedimentation for future HREPs. Various techniques are used to address the unique circumstances related to sedimentation and include, but not limited to, dredging and removal of sediment from selected backwaters and side channels to restore the aquatic habitat, and constructing dikes and sediment deflection berms to keep silt-laden water out of our prime wetland habitats and to control water levels for optimal plant growth. For an example, near us, at Harlow Island near Herculaneum, Missouri, is currently in design and will feature sediment deflection berms and wetland restoration. So you'll be able to check it out here shortly. Next. Within the Upper Mississippi River, an extensive levee system isolates the floodplain from the main stem river downstream of Lock and Dam 15 near Keokuk, Iowa, and on the lower Illinois River. Levee placement not only straightened the main channel, but also substantially altered the form and function of the Upper Mississippi. Detachment of the floodplain has resulted in a loss of channel complexity and floodplain process and function, such as floodwater storage and riparian and wetland development. These changed conditions greatly reduced off-channel aquatic habitat and for both fish and wildlife by reducing available food sources, cover, and water resources. Through UMRR, HREPs provide opportunity to restore floodplain connectivity through various means, including setback levees and fish-friendly water control structures. To see one of these restoration sites currently in construction, you can go visit the Clarence Cannon National Wildlife Refuge just north of us in Oneida, Missouri. And it's a pretty cool project, so you should check it out. Next. Lock and dam construction created navigation pools which raised and stabilized water levels and permanently submerged the floodplain and most of the natural levees and islands in the lower reaches of each navigation pool. This effect of inundation decreased sediment transport and annual water level variation in the lower reaches of the pools. It also led to erosion of existing islands via waves generated by increased boat traffic and wind fetch. This greatly diminished the ability of the river to build islands through natural geomorphic processes. On the slide here, you'll see Piasa and Eagles Nest Island, which is right off the Great River Road, just north of Alton. So you can actually see these islands if you're driving up along the Great River Road. And this project is looking to restore islands and side channel, and it's currently in design. So hopefully we'll be able to move that into construction and you'll be able to see this project again in our backyard. So again, next. Climate change has several challenges associated with it, including impacts to native species and expected increases in extreme low water and high water events. Climate change also poses a challenge in the social sector since the Mississippi River is a multi-use river. In balancing the needs of the multiple river users will be a challenge in managing the river in the face of climate change. UMRR provides an opportunity in studying climate change within the Upper Mississippi River. The 30 years of LTRM data provides important information in understanding the basic ecosystem conditions. Understanding these broader scale conditions in the context of their longer term variability can improve our understanding of climate change impacts to the Upper Miss. Next. So to sum things up, I want to know that Corps does have an ecosystem restoration mission, and the first and the longest lasting science and large river restoration program in the nation is the UMRR program. This program is used as a model program nationally and internationally. It's been successful for over 30 years due to our strong partnership. Our mighty Mississippi still faces several challenges, but we have an opportunity to address these challenges through science, monitoring, and targeted restoration activities. Nurturing the river must continue, and the UMRR program as a whole will lead to a better understanding of ecosystem structure and function of the river and help achieve a healthier and more resilient Mississippi River. Next. To learn more, you can visit our website, and here are some key documents if you wanted to dive a little bit deeper in what this program has been doing for the past 30 years. But with that, I'll turn things over to Sarah Pieper with the Missouri Department of Conservation, who will be speaking to us with the Merrimack River. Next.
Hello, my name is Sarah Pieper. I'm a fisheries biologist with the Missouri Department of Conservation. And today I'm going to discuss with you the relationship between the Mississippi River and its tributaries. So the Mississippi River extends, its ecosystem extends far beyond the main channel. The Mississippi's tributaries and their watersheds contribute to the health and resilience, for better or worse, to the Mississippi River ecosystem. I'm going to use the Merrimack River as an example today, and then I'm going to give a brief overview of how people from many backgrounds are working together to improve the health of the Merrimack and, by extension, the Mississippi River. Next. So the Mississippi River and the streams that feed into it have entwined ecologies. The connectivity between them provides a pathway. Next. Water is undoubtedly the first thing that comes to mind when we think about what moves along this pathway, but it's not the only thing. Streams also flow with sediment, organic debris, biota. Next, please. Organic debris, biota, and unfortunately also pollutants. Next. So the Merrimack River provides a wonderful example in our own backyard. The Merrimack flows into the Mississippi River just south of St. Louis City. Its watershed includes other streams that are familiar to most St. Louisans, like the Hoosiaw, Codaway, Big River, and the Burbus Rivers. All of those which extend far into the Ozark Highlands. The Merrimack's not without its problems, but it still supports a robust ecosystem. It is home to at least 128 species of fish. That's over half of all the fish species known to occur in Missouri. It's known worldwide for its mussel diversity. There are 46 species of mussels in the Merrimack. 17 of them are threatened, and 6 of them are federally endangered. Many other aquatic organisms, next please, such as crayfish, insects, reptiles, and amphibians, including the charismatic eastern hellbender, which is our largest salamander and is in severe decline throughout its range. An important aspect of the Merrimack River is that it's free flowing without any major dams. And for this fact, we must be eternally grateful to the activists in the 1960s and 70s who defeated an effort to turn the Merrimack River into basically another Lake of the Ozarks. And the dam that was intended at that time would have severed every aspect of connectivity that we're going to discuss today. Next. Water is a defining element of a river. The average discharge of the Merrimack River is about 120 cubic meters per second. And some rough number crunching tells me that this adds about 2.5% to the flow of the Mississippi River. But volume is only one part of the story. It also matters when and how that water is delivered through the system. Next. Much of the Merrimack's headwaters are forested, and about 13% of the watershed is permanently protected in national forest. Through interception and infiltration and other mechanisms, forests absorb up to 98% of rainfall. This is crucial for buffering flood impacts and for replenishing the groundwater system, which feeds the Merrimack through a multitude of springs. Next. This illustration shows how stormwater runoff increases as land cover is degraded. Even a seemingly small change to land cover, like converting a forest into a park, can increase runoff drastically and have huge effects on a stream. Next. This gives us a clue as to why this sometimes happens. As the Merrimack has often reminded us, the forests can't save us every time, and climate change and continued urban sprawl are pushing the limits of our watershed. And it's bringing home to us just how devastating the loss of our forests can be. Next. It's also important to remember that movement along this pathway is not strictly downstream. Floodwaters from the Mississippi River can back up the Merrimack River as much as 20 miles past Valley Park. And the Mississippi River can inundate the Merrimack and its floodplain with water and huge amounts of sediment. Next. Like water, sediment flows through the Merrimack to the Mississippi. Next. Though the Merrimack is dominated by gravel substrate, the smaller sized particles like sand and silt move more quickly through the system, and so that makes up the bulk of the sediment that's delivered to the Mississippi River. Next. The Mississippi is rather ubiquitously sandy, so the coarser substrates that are available in tributaries like the Merrimack provide important habitat for some large river species that need that gravel to complete their life cycles. Walleye, for instance, will swim up the Merrimack River and use the gravelly riffles for spawning habitat. Next. Logs, sticks, leaves, and other organic debris all make their way into the Mississippi from its tributaries. This detritus is an important pillar of the food web. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service biologists in this photo are holding what's called a bongo net. It is a cone-shaped net that is lowered into the water, and it passively collects whatever the water carries. This net was lowered into the Mississippi River for 4 minutes. It came up completely filled with organic debris. Next. Along with a myriad of organisms that feed on the debris. Through this research, over 2 years of bongo netting they did, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service gives us this rough estimate, and they emphasize that it's a rough estimate. They say that in 5 hours, the Mississippi River carries enough organic debris past St. Louis to cover the entire playing field of Busch Stadium with a foot thick of debris. Next. Unfortunately, pollution also flows from our tributaries into the Mississippi. Some major pollutants originating in the Merrimack affect the far reaches of the ecosystem. Much of the Merrimack's ecosystem, or the Merrimack's watershed, lies in Missouri's lead belt. Past and present mining quite persistently affects the water quality, habitat, and biota in the Merrimack and the Mississippi. Next. Excess nutrients from agricultural and lawn fertilizers, livestock production, and municipal sewers in the Merrimack all contribute to nutrient loading in the Mississippi, and ultimately contributes to the perennial dead zone that's present in the Gulf of Mexico. Litter, plastics, tires, styrofoam, if it's on the ground, it will more than likely end up in a stream and then in a river and onto the ocean, negatively impacting biota on every step of the journey. Next. The stars of the Mississippi ecosystem are the organisms that use this aquatic pathway to complete their life cycles. To them, river connectivity is definitely a two-way street. Some, like the American eel, undertake spawning migrations of immense distance. Eels spawn in part of the Atlantic Ocean called the Sargasso Sea. After spawning, the females will swim into freshwater, some of them up the Mississippi and into the Merrimack, where they find food and habitat that they need to prepare for their next spawn. Next. Blue catfish are a favorite of Mississippi River anglers. Researchers have found that as many as 25% of the blue catfish in the Mississippi use tributaries for a portion of the year, where they find refuge from flood conditions or new food sources. Next. Paddlefish and lake sturgeon are known wanderers. Using telemetry, Missouri Department of Conservation researchers have tracked individual fish for hundreds of miles, up and down the Mississippi River, through dams, in and out of tributaries, and in the case of one paddlefish, all the way to the Mississippi River Delta. Next. But it's not just large species that use this river highway. Species like the Ohio shrimp and the Alabama shad undertake long spawning migrations as well. Waterfowl use the river corridor on their way to nesting grounds and feeding habitats. Mussels use fish hosts to disperse their young throughout a river system, and the list goes on and on. Next. So, how do we keep this ecosystem healthy, or even better, improve its health? In addition to all the programs that Dr. McCain spoke about, there are organizations and partnerships working to improve the health of many of the Mississippi's tributaries. What helps the tributaries helps the Mississippi. The Merrimack River has an extensive partnership that is working towards ecosystem health and resiliency. Federal, state, and local agencies, non-for-profits, volunteers, and landowners are all leveraging their strengths and assets towards the goal. Now, I noticed that I didn't even put my own agency logo on this slide, so, but we are heavily involved in the Merrimack River. We have fisheries biologists, wildlife biologists, and foresters all working on the ground. I don't work primarily in the Merrimack, but I do have a role there. I lead our stream health monitoring program for the Merrimack, and this research provides information that helps focus our efforts and supports grant applications and tells us whether our efforts are succeeding or not. Next. One of the main goals of the partnership is to engage landowners and communities in conservation practices. Here are some examples of projects that have been completed. This landowner went all in to fit conservation into their working farm. They completed this spring branch restoration. Next. A biostabilization of a large eroding stream bank and reforestation of riparian corridors. Plus, the Ozark Regional Land Trust funded a conservation easement for 250 acres of this property, and that will keep it safe from disturbance into the future. Next. This landowner got help from partners to plan and fund a project to keep his cattle out of the creek, which was their only water source. A grant from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service provided funding for an alternative water source for the cattle. And here you see the piping that was laid to supply the ultra-efficient waterers that were installed. Next. Volunteers from Gateway Trout Unlimited planted trees to reforest the riparian area, and the creek and riparian areas were fenced to exclude livestock. Nearly a mile of stream was protected. Next. To undo decades of trash dumping and continued littering, thousands of people volunteer through the Missouri Stream Teams organization. They pull trash out by hand and dispose of it properly. Next. Since the birth of Stream Teams, over 300 teams have worked to remove 4,000 tons of trash from the Merrimack River. Next. And we have project plans into the future, such as replacing road crossings. The connectivity of the Merrimack is hindered by hundreds of road crossings like this one. Flow of water and sediment is impeded. Fish and other aquatic organisms often cannot pass through these structures, and they're very troublesome for county road crews to maintain. Merrimack's partners have prioritized the worst of these structures and are putting together funding to try to replace them. With span bridges, next. Span bridges like this one. At normal stream flow, fish can move freely under the bridge, and at high flow, it has minimal impact on water and sediment transport. Next. Plus, over the last few years, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, along with its partners, Missouri Department of Natural Resources, the Fish and Wildlife Service, EPA, the USGS, MDC, and the Nature Conservancy, have been working collaboratively with the public to develop an ecosystem restoration plan for the Merrimack Basin. This project has been approved by the Corps and transmitted to Congress for funding to design and construct. If it's funded, the project would restore approximately 1,600 acres of aquatic and floodplain habitat. The plan focuses on the Big River and consists of measures to reduce lead contamination, reforest critical areas, and improve channel stability. Next. So with that, I'd like to thank the Missouri History Museum for the opportunity to speak with you. I'd like to encourage you all to find a way to use your own talents and influence toward ecosystem conservation. It's not just about fish and birds or hellbenders. It's also about water quality, human health, flood reduction, recreation, community sustainability, and so many other aspects that are important to life on this planet. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kat, and thank you, Sarah, for sharing all of your work, your research with us this morning. It was all really fascinating. I know I personally learned a lot. And we're now at the point where we can accept some questions. I've got a few questions that have already come in. So I'll read the questions off and we can talk through those. The first one is, someone just wants to know more about invasive species. I think you both mentioned that a little bit. Can you give us any further insight?
I'll start. So yeah, invasive species, there are lots of them. So depending on what the person wants to know, I would say reach out to either one of us and we can kind of point you if you're interested in more learning about aquatic invasives or well as terrestrials. But they are a problem, not just in the Mississippi, but throughout the states and everywhere. They're here and they're not going anywhere. So we need to learn how to better manage them. And in order for us to restore the river, we need to also address invasive species.
I might just add that we need to find a way to keep more from coming in. It's just there's always new ones coming and coming, and we really need some legislation to try to stem that flow.
Okay, and someone specifically asked about the methods that are being used to get rid of the Asian carp. Can you tell us anything about that?
In terms of Asian carp, the Chicago district, Corps of Engineers actually has a really big effort going on in the Illinois River with like the bubble curtains and stuff. I can definitely share the website and there's a whole bunch of information on what they're doing. I'm not a fisheries biologist, so maybe Sarah can speak more to it if she's more familiar with it. But we are doing a lot of different techniques in order to figure out what works for reducing their movement, but allow native species to get through.
There's, yeah, in addition to what Kat said, there's state and national plans that people have gotten together, experts get together and try to figure out the best ways to keep them from moving, from getting into new water bodies. And there's a lot of research going on about how to reduce their numbers and reduce their impact on native species. So it's something that's very difficult and we're always trying new things, but it is a tough problem. And that's why we really need to keep other problems from coming in as well.
Thank you. Someone also mentioned that maybe not everyone knows exactly what you mean by invasive species. Could you perhaps share sort of a general definition of what invasive species are?
I can take a stab at that. So an invasive species is generally an exotic species, a plant or animal that's come from another country or even just another part of North America. And when it's introduced here, it doesn't have the natural checks in place that would keep it from spreading quickly. The natural predators or pests that would naturally keep its numbers low. So they can quickly take over an ecosystem and have big impacts on our native species.
Thank you. We've got a question about just sort of how people in the region can help the quality of our rivers by using better practices on their own as individuals. And I know as the three of us were talking before we broadcasted, we were kind of, I mentioned that I've been spending a lot of time outdoors with the current situation in our society, and many people are getting out for hikes and going to rivers and lakes more often. Maybe could you tell us some of the things that everyday individuals could do to care for the animals, the wildlife, the plants, the river itself? What can we be doing or make sure we aren't doing?
I'll share that. So I'm also a merit badge counselor for Boy Scouts, and one of their guiding principles is leave no trace. So if you're enjoying the outdoors, we want you outside. That's part of nature. It's part of our national heritage, but leave no trace. So, you know, take only photos, all that stuff. It's like, whatever you do, don't hurt. Like if you have garbage, take it out with you. Just leave no trace of you being in nature.
So some things that homeowners and landowners can do, if you just own a small, yard, even you can do something in that area. Convert some of your lawn to native wildflowers. It does a much better job at absorbing rainfall and nutrients and other pollutants than a lawn does. So, and if you have a large property, get help from the conservation department or, other local agencies to manage your property in a way that's friendly to wildlife and forests and fish. So we have a whole division, we have a private lands division that we have experts that's all they do is they help landowners. And we also have a subset of our private lands that works in urban areas and suburban areas and helps communities and individuals do best management practices on their small properties. So get on our website and get a hold of your local private lands conservationist and ask them what you can do. One other thing I would add, I have a personal mission to reduce plastic in my life, and I would say that we are beyond the point with plastic where recycling works. We have to just stop using plastic. So do everything you can to reduce your plastic consumption.
Thank you. Someone is asking, are there other rivers near us in Missouri or Illinois that support a lot of biodiversity for the Mississippi, but unlike the Merrimack have been degraded and you would recommend be better supported with restoration or conservation efforts?
Well, just in general, there are several rivers that are tributaries of the Mississippi, and I would say almost all could have some benefit of either a small scale restoration, upland management, watershed management, because the Merrimack is one of the most pristine free flowing rivers we have in the Midwest, and it still needs help. So if other rivers are not in the spotlight, they are being easily degraded as well. So if you have a local stream in your neighborhood, go ahead and start, like what Sarah said, reach out, figure out ways that you can benefit the river by restoring it or just simply being a better steward to the environment.
If they wanted a specific example, I might look at the Castor River system, and a lot of the streams that used to flow through our the Boot Heel region, most of those have been severely degraded and channelized. The Castor River was channelized, half of its length was cut off, and then the flow was just directed straight to the Mississippi River through a channel. And if you look at aerial photos, you can see where it used to flow and where it flows now. So that would be one example.
How can a person who does not work for an agency or organization participate and keep up to date on various efforts to make improvements on their watershed?
We do have several local stream teams that any public person can participate in and get involved. Sarah, do you have, that's a website, is that MDC or is that just the, yeah, my husband's one of the stream team leads, so he gets involved, but he does mostly stuff down in Perryville and St. Genevieve with sinkhole cleanups for Cave because it's underwater rivers. But there's just, yeah, I'm just gonna stop there and stop talking. So yeah, Sarah, go ahead.
Yeah, there's a lot of local resources, and in St. Louis, there are a lot of watersheds, even smaller watersheds in the Merrimack, like the Kiefer Creek Watershed Alliance. There's watershed alliances for different smaller tributaries around. And the stream teams is usually a good way to connect with those people. But if you find out what watershed you live in, first of all, and then just call me or call somebody at the your local conservation office, and find out what sort of programs there might be that you could participate in.
I'm going to take one last question here. How will the climate crisis affect native species?
Well, climate change is here and it's real. And it's something that some native species are able to be resilient and they can adapt to it, and others are migrating. So some of the restoration work that we're looking at, since, for example, trees, they're kind of stationary and they're long-lived. So climate change can really hurt them. So what we're doing now is looking at using species of more southern origin in our restoration activities, just because we know it's going to get warmer and wetter. So our restoration projects around St. Louis, instead of just using what was here 50, 100 years ago, we're actually looking at including some of the species from more of the boot heel region in order for us to hopefully be able to restore the riparian corridor for what the climate will look like in the future.
I don't have a whole lot to add to that. Just that to me, it seems like climate change is making our forests and our native landscapes even more important, because those forests have some buffering capacity against changes to rainfall patterns and temperature changes. So, but the forest's health is in jeopardy because of climate change too. So we really need to work hard to keep our landscapes as healthy and native as possible.
Again, thank you both, Sarah and Kat, for joining us today and sharing all of your knowledge and resources. And thank you all, viewers, for tuning in. This presentation today is the first of a series of 6 Our River conversations that we are having. The next Our River conversation is called Living with the River, Flooding and Community Response, and that's going to be held on Tuesday, July 21st. So again, at 11 a.m. in the morning. It's already on our website if you'd like to mark your calendars. And there were some questions that were coming up about flooding and levees and those types of concerns and conversations. And I think that's going to be addressed and explored a lot more in that next Our River conversation on July 21st. So I know we didn't get to all of the questions today, but you all had so many great questions. Again, thank you for participating in the conversation. And to let you know, the Missouri History Museum and all of the Missouri Historical Society buildings just opened this past weekend. So we are now open. If you have an interest in coming to see the Mighty Mississippi exhibit, we are open and available. Simply look into getting a ticket online ahead of time. We have free time tickets now. So just look into those new processes if you are feeling like it's safe to come out and explore. We would love to have you. And lastly, there are 2 to 3 of these STL History Live presentations each week. You can see the next few up here on our screen. The next one will be Thursday evening, the Angolan Civil War 45 years later. So we hope that you will tune in and see us again on STL History Live soon. And of course, all of these events are at mohistory.org and on our Facebook pages if you'd like to see what's coming up. So with that, thank you again, everyone. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Kat. Thank you to all the viewers and supporters. See you next time.